comics are stupid.
No Harry Potter movie is good.
And you're like, give me the Snyder Cut. Oh, sorry, just walk in front of you here. Gonna put my popcorn down. Oh, sorry, gotta put this here.
Universal needs to sue Sony.
Hey, I'm an idiot. I was fired from Fox. Let me go.
I'd like actually to see Venom just crush Spider-Man.
Hello everyone, so I'm back today and I'm going to be talking about the Snyder Cut of Justice League. So, look, I'm going to be honest. Going into this, I wasn't expecting anything but a chaotic mess of moments, but turned out not to be like that. And I'm someone who, just for reference, really did enjoy the Justice League we initially got. I wasn't someone who was, oh, I want this, that was garbage movie. I enjoyed it. It was good. It wasn't the best thing ever, obviously, but it was good. And, there were aspects of it I disagreed with, but I didn't hate it. But this movie I kind of was like, okay, I'll watch it, it'll be cool, throw a lot of stuff at you, but it won't mean anything. But then, after watching this, I think it really gave me a new perspective on this movie, right? Because it wasn't what I expected. My expectations going in was there's going to be these characters, everything's going to be thrown at you, you're going to the rumor that every other day there'd be a new rumor of a character that would be involved, and I was kind of like, what is this all going to be crazy stuff? But it wasn't, and that's what I found interesting. It wasn't crazy stuff. It was basically the movie. For the most part, the movie we got was a 4-hour version of that movie, right? Like, it was a 4-hour version of the 2.5-hour movie we got, right? So it's like, if that makes any sense, right? So it's kind of like a lot of the parts of the movie, like the overall story stayed the same. It was just different parts were extended. There's more stuff. It was like a director's cut of a movie, honestly, just 4 hours. Like, I feel like there wasn't that much of a change in terms of story, in terms of the 3-arc structure. That was all virtually the same. Now, what happened was, or at least what I think, was there was a lot more, like, the biggest change to the movie was the kind of final act, or the epilogue, right? That was the biggest thing I noticed that was really different from the original, in regards to the fact that it kind of did the whole nightmare scene, and then it kind of set that all up, and then just kind of left, and I think that's a lot of what happened. And then there was some dark side stuff, which, we didn't get before, but, I found that interesting, because, so this is the thing, like, they were talking about, anti-life, and dark side, and all these people coming in, and I was kind of like, this is gonna be a lot of stuff in one movie. But again, as I said before, it wasn't, and I'm still in great shock about that. But this is like, it's really weird, because this is the thing I don't like about this movie, and what I really didn't like about the original Justice League. It sets all this stuff up. It's great. Although it was interesting, the other thing I wanted to mention was the end credit scene with Lex Luthor, which was initially in the original one, the end credit scene, at least, or if we're going to start a League of Our Own, like the movie A League of Our... No, so, like, in the Injustice League or the Legion of Doom. And this time it was, I'm going to get you to kill Batman, which makes sense because, of course, the rumored... But when that was initially planned, was the initial rumored Deathstroke Batman kind of movie, which would make sense that came after this. And this doesn't mess up any continuity either, which I think is interesting, right? Because theoretically, you could just insert this in the place of that original 2017 Justice League movie, and it works all the same. But the scene I really want to talk about in terms of everything, in terms of specifics, is the nightmare scene, because I think that's the one that poses the most interesting question. So it seems to be a combination of, we get the Joker, obviously, and in that Joker kind of scene, so it seems like they're going the very injustice-y route, in the sense that, Superman's evil, and because of Lois Lane dying, which we know, of course, is the injustice scene. And then we also know that, and I don't know if this is related, but there were the pregnancy tests that they kind of zoomed in on when she was looking at the picture when Superman was dead, right? And we know that in Injustice, Lois dies pregnant. So I don't know if that's like a reference to anything, or if it's just not, but, that's the thing. And then we also got to see Deathstroke, who's now working with Batman, the Flash, and we understand why Lois is the key, and we understand the dark side. But the question is, will this actually be built on? For example, in the Flash movie, will they decide, we're actually going to be building on this. Flashpoint will build on this, because Flashpoint, obviously, it would kind of make sense that it could have something to do with this. Or will they kind of leave this and move on? Like, you could put this in and it would make perfect sense, right? You could still leave this movie as it is instead of that Justice League movie, and you could keep making stuff and it could make sense, and then you can make another movie, where you deal with Darkseid again. Or the alternate. And the other thing which I wanted to mention, which is just kind of all scattered, right, is they did mention Harley Quinn died, which I find interesting because, Harley Quinn is money, literal box office money. So I don't know if they've fully been on board killing her permanently. So just throwing that. Although I don't think any of those deaths are permanent because you got a speedster. But it was interesting because the other thing Joker talked about was the death of Robin's storyline, which he kind of talks about how he was, he talked about the existence of, which I thought was interesting. But yeah, I mean, I think that the whole concept, right, of the kind of, like, I feel like this whole concept of leaving something so open, and the Martian Manhunter stuff and all that stuff, I feel like there's a good aspects to it, but then it's kind of like, why are you just gonna leave it like that? Like, can you not just, like, give, like, then I want more, I want to see how this ends. I want more story, right? You can't set something up like this and then leave it. And I think this is more in Warner Bros. Control. And then it's kind of like, do we really want this? Because I feel like there were still a lot of problems with the movie in terms of it not being the best movie. And I think a lot of the reason it had such good critical appeal was because, A, there was more depth to it, but also because, it was just a better movie than the original, in terms of it gave more depth and it gave better story. But, like, I remember I was watching the first hour and 43 minutes, and I was like, this is slow, I don't know, like, this is not an action-packed movie. So, I mean, it's kind of like, it almost underwhelmed my expectations, which was good, because that's what I wanted. I wanted something less, but then again, it just kind of felt like a director's cut. It didn't feel 4 hours, and it didn't feel like it needed to be 4 hours, and it felt like, there were certain, this is the other thing, right, which is some movies have this issue, Endgame had this issue, John Wick had this issue, actually, which is, funny. I don't know why that just came to my head, but it's the multiple ending syndrome, where you have a movie which has multiple places, in the last, like, 20 minutes where it could possibly end, but then they just keep going, have more endings, right? So, I don't like that personally, which is why I like end credit scenes, because it's kind of like you can end the movie and then still have a little scene, but then you don't go on for multiple scenes, if you know what I mean. And the other thing is, I think Justice League's kind of putting on what I'm gonna make the call the Star Wars trope, right? This trope where you have this ancient thing, and I mean, this was in the original too, and it's not like, I'm specifically complaining about it in this. It just, you have this case where, you have this ancient thing that happened, and then you have to, and the world was destroyed, and then they fought together to win, and then now you have to do it again, but for real. Kind of like Raya the Last Dragon had this, and a lot of movies do it, but there was something else which, now kind of feels repetitive. I don't know. And I think that was a kind of another part of that, right? It was this idea of repetitiveness. Like, look, was Cyborg better? Yes, but was he essentially the same character, just more developed? Yeah. Like that's really what it was. And I think, you can get away with a 4-hour movie, I guess, but it feels like, you could have just given Cyborg a movie here, develop it kind of in the Avengers way, but then again, you didn't do that in this case. Or you could have done, like, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like Flash, for example. Flash is a very good example of this. Did they develop Flash more? Yes. But at the same time, it's kind of like, he's like, well, I've got rule. I can't go back in time. Well, how do we know, right? Like, it's very vague, and you don't give the time to these characters. The character like that, Cyborg, developing throughout the movie makes sense because he's kind of like the guy who's the main dude for all this. Batman's kind of being developed, but not really. We still don't really know. Like, if you didn't know what Batman was about, you wouldn't know, understand Batman in this movie, right? And then, you know what Superman's about because he's had the most airtime, and Wonder Woman as well, because she's had so much time. You kind of know what they're about. But Batman, again, if you didn't know who Batman was as a character, you wouldn't know what he's about. And, same goes for Flash, if you didn't know him as a character. And I think that, and this is the thing, it's like, I don't like the CW show, yet I feel like they did a better job because they had the time to flesh out the Flash. Now, after the Flash movie, if I go back and I watch this, I may say, yeah, this works. And even Aquaman, it's kind of like, had Aquaman's movie not come out, I don't know if, I guess this would have still worked, but at the same time, it wouldn't have worked, right? Because it's hard for me to go back and say, well, at that time, would this be enough story? Because technically, I would make the point that the initial Justice League did not have enough story of these characters. And so the question is then, would this be enough story as well, or does this not? Because I feel like that's the other thing. Like, when critics are going in and other people are going in and watching this movie from a movie perspective, right? They've seen probably Wonder Woman 1984, Aquaman, they've seen the original Justice League, they've seen, all these movies leading up to this point. And so then they're kind of able to go in and say, I know what you're about, Aquaman, because I've seen your movie. But then would this, and so therefore I can say that gives you enough depth. But does it really, or is it really just me knowing when I saw your movie, I now understand your character? Same with Wonder Woman. Like, is this more depth, or is this just me understanding your character now because of your movies, your two movies, so I can kind of understand it, right? Like, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but it's kind of like, even Barry Allen, right? It's kind of like, the Flash TV show exists, and I know it's a completely different thing, but it's kind of like, I know your story, so is this enough? Like, I feel like it's hard to judge this of, did this movie do a better job at developing these characters? Yes, but did it do enough of a job where the layperson who has not seen anything else, or going back to that point where Man of Steel and Batman vs Superman, I believe, and maybe Wonder Woman, I think, had to come out at that point, were the only 3 movies, right? Like, is that enough? Or is that not enough? I don't remember when I'm going to come out at that point, or is that the next year? That might even mean the next year. And so while I figure that out, that's my biggest thing, right? Is just, is there a lot of kind of hindsight is 2020? Or is it kind of like, hindsight is not 2020? So it would have been, they were both 2017 movies. Wonder Woman was 2017. Suicide, Dawn of Justice was there, the Justice League. So yes, I believe it was after. But then it's kind of like that, right? Now, I do think it'd be interesting to see if they do decide to pick this up and continue it, or if they just leave it. Because, it's curious, and I'm curious enough to be interested in, this, because they set stuff up. But at the same time, does it make sense kind of in a money sense or a finance sense? I might even make a whole video breaking this kind of aspect of it down for Warner Bros. To continue with this universe. Because, and do you need to, right? Like, do you explicitly need to? Because, for example, getting Ben Affleck back, we don't know if that's even possible, right? There's certain aspects of this, but will Aquaman continue on as a character? Yes. And can you continue him in this world? But then again, the question becomes, Justice League 2, is that a thing? Do you really capitalize on this? And I think that'll come down to basically the numbers in terms of how good this movie did, and did the kind of, the people who are advocating the most for this come out and support this movie, and they're able to say, based on our subscription increase and, based on what we can tell, this is a very successful movie. And I think that'll be the big question, which will show them how they do the future. And do you bring Zack Snyder back? Like, how much, is he someone you come back with in the future? Do you bring on another mind? Because there are plenty of great directors, I'm sure, who could continue the story. Or do you maybe allow him to kind of do some stuff with this? Because, look, at the end of the day, this was better than A, the Justice League we got, and B, this is the best Zack Snyder movie in relation to DC, by far. That's not even out. This movie, this 4-hour movie, is the best Zack Snyder movie that he's done for DC. Is even better than Watchmen. This is good. It is a very good movie. Now, is it Avengers quality? No. But is it definitely top tier in terms of quality? And maybe, again, that's the length. And maybe that... And look, at the end of the day, there is a reason studios don't do 4-hour movies, and why initially it was supposed to be 2 parts, and it was supposed... And then, even before that, it was supposed to be... After that, they were trying to tell them to shorten it into 1 movie, right? It's kind of like... does it make sense? Because, you know, you're not going to sit in the theater and watch a 4-hour movie. That's just the reason why even Endgame being 3 hours is a risk. And theaters also don't make the maximum profit off a 4-hour movie, which I've talked about before and I won't really get into right here. But, you know, something which is interesting. But, you know, if you've gotten this far, that means you enjoyed this. So just, you know, click the like, subscribe, and comment. And just comment. Tell me your entire thoughts on this movie, all of them. You know, and then, you know, make me happy by clicking the other buttons. And so, yeah, that's all for now. I will, if anything else happens in regards to this movie, you know, I will kind of talk about it. But that's it, yeah. So I guess that's it. So see you all next time. Bye-bye.